This is always the fun bit at the beginning, trying to get it to work. There we go. Right, try and add it. There we go.
Afternoon.
Hey,
Afternoon, boys. How are we?
yeah, good, are you?
Yeah, excellent. Of course, the
I've had
great
to
thing about
go.
lockdown is we don't have to do our hair.
Well, that's why that's out now. My wife was looking at me earlier, and she was basically saying, "I've got to get a haircut, or if I'm doing any of these, I've got to put on a cap because I've got kind of wiry wool hair, and it's out of control now. It's not good."
Yeah, I think we're getting the sheep shears out tonight for our family.
Fancy a grade 1 or 2?
I think we might go for a 2, yeah.
Ronnie's got it like it's starting to go over his ears. It's starting to look like a microphone.
Yeah, I think you need to have a challenge, and the forfeit should be a fairly obscure haircut.
What do you reckon?
Yeah.
I like Riley with a Mohican. It's the only time it'll ever work.
I like it. I like it. Gav, obviously, Ronnie's not met you before. We've chatted a little bit on social, probably more recently, sort of as our journey's developed, sort of getting to know all these, these great people that are doing stuff for junior golf and falling upon yourself and the Ledbetter kids. So, I mean, just for Riley, and if anyone's watching, if you just want to highlight what your page and what Ledbetter Kids is all about.
Yeah, we're two things, and I'll go into a little bit of detail with it. Firstly, we are about coach education, and secondly, we're about player development. Now, I've been coaching kids pretty much for nearly 25 years, and I've run 3 very successful academies where we've had loads of kids coming on a weekly basis, but it was always my goal to try and scale it up so that we encourage more kids to take part and get more families involved as well. But you're only limited when you're looking after 1, 2, 3, 4 different facilities, and it's really difficult to spread yourself that thin. So it didn't really work that way. So, through little bits of trial and error and exploring different opportunities, found that the only way really to do this is to empower coaches to actually have the skills to deliver a program. And it could be any program, because there are so many that do the same sort of thing. It really is dependent on the skills of the coach to kind of deliver that. So hence why we want to educate coaches first and give them the tools to succeed, and then provide them with a program second, which if we have more coaches that are educated, shall we say, or have the tools, then they can go out like disciples and actually start to recruit more golfers into their programs. So that's how I think we can scale this up, and certainly evidence right now in this short amount of time that we've been doing it will kind of support it.
How long have you been a golf pro for?
Well, my first job was back in 1988.
I was 4.
Well done. Well done.
Just to make you feel a bit better.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was a ripe old 16-year-old thrust into teaching a group of 14-year-olds. And it was a bit weird. But, I went to university in between then and learned a few different skills and had some great experiences along the way, and only really got going in kind of 96. But since then, it's been pretty much full on. So, yeah, kind of love it, really. I mean, it's just what my passion is. And, now that I've got an opportunity to explore and take this out to the masses, it's really something that's gathering some momentum.
It's really good. And with the Ledbetter Academy, how long was that for?
I only joined the family here back at the end of 2018, pretty much. So I'm very new to the fold, but I've learned so much from involving myself with some of the world's best coaches. I mean, David's phenomenal. I think I don't know if I'm allowed to describe him as the grandfather of golf coaching, but he's he's the first one that brought around video instruction and brought various philosophies to the library, and really just kind of paved the way for golf coaches that we see today.
That's brilliant. And you've got kind of a father-son golf relationship going on as well, a little bit, haven't you? So,
I've got two boys. They're 18 and 21, and yeah, it's been great, and I just love every minute of it. Can't get enough of it. Yesterday, I'm just going to admit this. I woke up, watched a bit of golf on TV at 7:30, and then I just switched on a few Euro Pro highlights and other golf tournament highlights that my son was playing in, just because I miss watching so much and kind of being involved in performance and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, bit sad watching old replays, but yeah, needs must when we're all in this situation.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a bit of a strange one being stuck at home, isn't it? We're back at school today, aren't we? Mm-hmm. So how are you finding it? It's been quite nice the last 2 weeks not having the schoolwork to do, and just to really enjoy being together as you would in the holidays. Now I don't usually have a couple of days off in the holidays, and so it's been really good just having 2 weeks stuck at home and just being able to spend time with each other. But obviously our relationships or our journey is all about the time on the golf course. And sort of as the page has been growing, we feel like we've got, we're learning all the time how this sort of parent son or parent daughter sort of journey is. So obviously seeing yourselves and getting advice, and obviously I've been watching some of your lives that you've been doing with the academy, and just constantly getting good nuggets of information, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it's a constant. You can't kind of get away from it, and it obviously takes a fair bit of time. But you just hope that people get little bits from what you talk about, and that if one family gets some benefit from it and they can use in the future, then that's kind of what I'm hoping for. But we have a great opportunity, both of us to really kind of portray the right way to do it, and I think what you guys are doing is really refreshing, and I look forward to when you guys get back out on the golf course, and we can start seeing some live action out there, really, because that's kind of what we're all hoping for, isn't it? But it's showing that the relationship that you've got is exactly how I would like to describe the parent-son relationship or the parent-daughter relationship, because it's healthy, beneficial. You appreciate each other's company, and I think that once Riley gets a little bit more competitive, which would seem only like a natural pathway, then it would be really cool to see how you both evolve together.
Yeah, that'd be that would definitely be interesting. Like at the minute, we're obviously all about just having a bit of fun and not sort of taking it too serious. We've done a few of the tournaments, but I think, I don't know if it's lifestyle or what, but I'm sort of reluctant to travel overly far at the minute to go and take Riley to play in certain competitions, because I think that sort of detracts from what I'm about anyway. I've got a wife and daughter at home, and if we're on the road all day, every day, on the weekends, I'd never see my daughter or my wife. So we sort of pick and choose the competitive elements, generally in the southwest area where we are. And, we went and did a couple with the British Junior Golf Tour. But we haven't done any of the US kids. I know they're about the British and the European champs and things like that. I think if Riley keeps enjoying it, then maybe that's something down the line. But it's interesting your sort of take and what your thoughts are on that sort of competitive element of.
Road trips are a tremendous amount of fun. They're awesome. They're great bonding experiences. We did the European US Kids tournament a few times, and we turned it into a holiday. So we'd go and stay at Caravan Park up there in the northeast, and we just made it a family event. That's pretty much all there was in terms of US kids at that time, which was 10, 11 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. So and we genuinely weren't overly pressured in the result. It was just all about having fun and enjoying competition. I think as you two grow in your journey, it's understanding that competition can be fun. And if you do happen to play well and you do get into contention, it's actually embracing that, loving every minute of it, and feeling privileged to be in that position, privileged to have the ability to be in that position. And it's really special, and something that you can't really take for granted. And I think it brings about an opportunity to learn so many different life skills, and to prepare, Riley for what his future is out in front of him, whether it's golf or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's just like he's learning as he goes along, and understanding what is required to become the best version of himself. Because when you're playing in competition, you're tested in many different ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, and you learn through failure, and you learn through making mistakes. And there will be times when in the future when you'll probably both break down in tears at something that's happened. But at some point, you have to go through that in order to come out the other side and to understand actually what makes you who you are. And there's nothing wrong with showing emotion and having emotion, but that's part and parcel of the journey. So it's learning to embrace it and to love it and to really enjoy being together, experiencing these things, because it's really unique, very special. And if you have the right bond together, then it can be a very positive experience. And the issue that we have now as educators effectively is giving parents the tools to get to that point where they do have this relationship that can foster these really positive experiences.
It is really hard as a parent, and sort of the more our page has grown, I've become more acutely aware of the impact it has, and every post you put out there, whether someone just flicks past it or reads it, it could have an impact on someone. And I think with the competitive side is that, Ronnie is competitive. You're really competitive, aren't you? And we can have a bit of fun between ourselves. I've got quite a vast background in sport. I mean, rugby was my main sport where I played at the highest level. But I played a lot of different county sports as a junior coming through in all sorts of different things, from athletics, swimming, rugby, football, and it's just difficult to understand when and where to sort of push and sort of facilitate. And I think that's the one thing that I've found hard is understanding when that is. And that's why I've just stuck with, the social media for us has been a great thing, because he's playing with, I'm not the worst golfer out there. So as we play, he's going to learn something from me, hopefully. And we can keep it competitive without it getting too serious yet. But it's, at what age do you think that you then start taking it that little bit more serious?
Definitely into your teenage years, definitely. I think the key with our program is that we pitched it for, effectively Lead Better Kids is 5 to 12-year-olds, and one of the goals of the program is to create solid foundations upon which these young teenagers, once they get to that point, can start to take the game a little bit more seriously, and get ready for slightly more elite level of instruction and slightly higher level of competitiveness. But you go back to the motivations behind it, and the only person that can motivate the future is Riley. I mean, it's got to be up to him about what he does when he does it, and you can guide and help steer, but he's got to want it from the heart. And if he wants to go play, then you can control that. But it's very difficult to do it the other way around, where you're forcing him and dragging him out the house to go and do it, and that really isn't very productive. So
have you seen much of that? The pushy parent thing.
Yeah, it's been certainly around the US kids tournaments, and you can't you just can't get away from it, because the tournaments are run pretty well, but you know, you've just got parents that have no business being there, unfortunately, without the tools and the skills to be able to cope with the situation that they've put themselves in. So we've had some horrible situations where we've played, and it's been very off-putting, certainly with Josh, with parents behaving the way that they've behaved. And you end up treading on eggshells, you know, as you're trying to get around the golf course without World War III breaking out. You know?
You've done it a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, the reason why is, like, for the US kids people as well, the reason why mum and dads and like get pushy is because they've spent all that money on like going there and stuff, and if they the kids don't play well, it's kind of a waste of like money.
I guess people may see it like that. Parents want the one thing, a little pet hate of mine is through Instagram, is when you know, you junior players who have, whether it's their own Instagram account or their parents are showcasing, which, you know, I've had comments saying you're pushing Riley too hard, and you know, I don't know how you think about that, but
I just go out.
It's easy to see the page where it looks like we're doing golf every second of the day, but you know, I take some video on a weekend, and that gives me content to push out throughout the week. It's not like we're out there every day. Riley does lots of other sports. I mean, he's been doing keepy uppies and breaking all my wife's plants in the garden. But it's like the one thing is like that, you know, these road to PGA accounts where, you know, the parents there, that's their end goal, is that they want their kid to be on the PGA tour. And the one thing for me is that I don't have absolutely any aspirations for Riley. Like, if we just play golf together for the rest of our time on earth, then that's an amazing thing that we can share. And I will facilitate anything that he wants. So, as like you said, they get into their later teenage years. He wants to specialise and golf something that he wants. Then that's when I will support that a little bit more. But you know, as I've seen 6-year-olds who, you know, have that, you know, future PGA star, and that instantly shows the mindset of that parent and where they're at. It's one thing, you know, we really try and steer clear of, and you know, at the minute it is purely just to try and showcase what we're doing together, and that's the healthy relationship that maybe people can enjoy in the early years. And if it leads to something, then that's great.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you said a minute ago, Riley, about parents' expectations from spending lots of money. Competition is only a problem when winning is the only outcome. The benefits of playing competition go much deeper than the victory or the win. And you know, when Josh was playing AJGA tournaments, his final year of high school, he managed to get into all the big events, and we traveled around the whole of the US playing in these events. We did Webb Simpson's tournament, Daniel Berger's, Jordan Spieth's, Justin Rose's, and these were phenomenal experiences, and we only played in these because they were phenomenal experiences. And you hope that they just come out at the back end of the tournament having thoroughly enjoyed the whole thing, and learned something from it, because I never felt then at that point that the tournament that he'd play in would define who he would become as a player. It still is that case today, even when he's playing at a professional level. The end journey is still some years down the line, and you know, just the fact that he's now just turned 22, we've still got a lot to learn and still plenty ahead of us. So that, you know, has maintained, that's been a philosophy that we've maintained for many years. And with both boys, and Ethan, his brother, who's 18, is going to go a little bit more down the coaching side of things when he goes to university. But he still has a goal to become a better golfer and to really enjoy that game and the process of it. So, you know, we have to look at the big picture. And like I said just a minute ago, you know, competition is a problem when winning is the only outcome, and that is not the outcome that we necessarily look for every time. You know, if you're starting to play in all of the majors and the World Golf Championships, that's when I think that you're at the point where, you know, winning is an outcome, and you really start to change your behaviors accordingly. And, you know, that becomes your main focus, because you're good enough then to be in that sphere and in that world. So you're entitled to think like that. But unless you get to that point, then I don't believe you should be.
Yeah, it's a good point. With, I mean, I don't know if you've got any questions for us. We've got a few things that we'll ask along the way, and I'm sure the conversation will flow accordingly. You want your question?
Yeah.
Go on then. Riley's got a question for you.
What's the best advice you'd give to me while like lockdown, or like anyone else?
The best advice I've given to anyone in lockdown?
So I think the best advice provided during lockdown in terms of whether it's golf related, I guess, we keep it on the subject. If you've got anything for him on that.
Yeah, you know what, I would just try and explore your own creativity. You know, making up games, figuring stuff out. You know, I remember, you know, I only started playing golf when I was 14, but in those first 2 years where all I did was play, it was just through play and experimentation that I actually got quite good. So that's what I would really encourage. I mean, how high can you flop a shot? You know, how many times can you chip it into an obstacle, and how small can the obstacle get? Can I play a flop shot with a 5-iron? You know, stuff like that. It's just it's allowing your creative juices to flow and just, you know, exploring. That's really key for kids and their development. And, you know, Andy, I don't think you would necessarily want to set games up for him as such. You just kind of let him lead that and let him kind of show the way. And that's how kids learn a lot, really.
That's cool. Yeah, Riley wanted to do what was the game? The flop shots in the net. We've got like a little side lawn and trying to see how close we can get to the net and flop it over the net.
Yeah, that's
so we have to use the rubber balls for that.
Yeah, I'd like to see you go the other side of the house and then pitch a ball back in to the garden and into a hole. That's what I'd like to see.
Easy. I am working as well, you know. Cool. No, that's good advice. You know, we certainly at the beginning of lockdown, it's been a bit different the last few weeks, but I was really busy with work, and just needed a few minutes out of the day. Riley was still doing his schoolwork, and we were coming up with like little put-out challenges with the put-in and things like that. I mean, I've been working on a few things with my swing in the garden. We're fortunate that we've got a net, and but obviously it's so limited because you don't know where the ball's going and everything else. So the amount of time that you spend in the net is, for me, sometimes like Riley today, if I just want to go out and hit some balls, and you know, he went out, pulled the net over, and just hit into the net for 20 minutes, and I find that a bit of a stress release. I don't know how you feel, but if I get a little bit of golf, and you know, I'm more productive afterwards if I've worked, and then just go and hit some golf balls for 10 minutes, and then I feel a little bit better. And you know what, you've got some speed sticks, and they're great. I think a 5-minute speed stick could be a great sort of interlude when you're studying at home, Riley. And I think you know, set yourself a little challenge every week to try and improve your swing speed by 1 mile an hour or whatever. And that's kind of a very short, quick, aggressive bit of mobility that you can tune into. That's really cool. Yeah, Riley had some. Do you remember the difference in swing speed you had with your?
It was like 10 miles per hour.
No. Yeah, so we did the protocols with the speed sticks, and Riley saw 10 mile an hour difference.
And how? What's the difference between your left-handed and your right-handed swing?
It wasn't too bad, was it?
No.
I think I put some posts back a while ago, and it had the sort of differences, I think. So on the left side, Riley's quite natural with the left side. I can't do it that well, but it seems to have the technique. But it was down a little bit, but I know it's trying to even it up and trying to get the left side as close to the right side as possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was a few miles an hour down, but it wasn't as bad as me.
And that's another thing, of course, you know, trying to work on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Because quite often we just end up working on the stuff that we're comfortable with. So, you know, anything that you feel like is a challenge for you, you need to spend more time doing.
Yeah, mine was definitely putting last year. So I felt like I played really well. I had some good achievements in my golf game, and got my handicap down a shot and a half. But the amount of times I was sort of 3-4 in the par with you know, maybe 4 or 5 holes to play and just blowing it, and then playing level par rounds with like 36, 37 puts and just not holding anything. So putting's been a big one for me. Like you said, you know, when me and Riley are doing it, I mean, we can put a live on and just have like a father-son competition.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's even, you know, 3, 4, 5 people may be watching, but you don't really know when you're doing it. And just the fact that someone's watching, there's that little bit of extra pressure. I quite enjoy doing those. And, you know, it's like when that person's on the putting green watching you, and you know that their eyes are staring in the back of your head, and you don't want to look stupid. You want to try and hold the putts, whether it's, you know, however far. So that's been quite good. That's been good.
Excellent.
What's your thoughts on so at Riley's club, when they play in there, they pretty much have a kids competition, 9 holes every 2 weeks, and parents aren't allowed to caddy or take part. It's all down to the kids. So I'm interested in your thoughts on that side of things, really.
I think there's a time and a place for both. I think if the kids are able to push their own trolley or carry their own bag, then they should be doing that more often than not, because that creates elements of responsibility and taking ownership for their own decisions. And it puts them in a position where they have to be reliant on what they've learned, and also, you know, gathering information that they can take back to their coach afterwards. If there's a parent there, then it's quite easy for the kids to look back at the parent and get simple, easy answers or solutions to the problems that they might have out there. So you know, even with kids as young as 5, 6, we can be starting to teach them responsibility, you know, decision making, taking ownership for their own decisions, and that's really important from a young age. But equally, you know, we used to have you know, half a dozen tournaments a year where the kids had caddies from their parents were the caddy, and I think it's a really good thing to do, because it helps foster the parent-child relationship, and there's a time and a place for it, and I wouldn't do it every week, but you know, half a dozen times a year I thought it was really positive. So
so I mean, you can probably chat a bit more on this one. So I find the dynamic, you know, quite hilarious sometimes, because Riley will be stood there and will say it's a 7-iron, and his yardages are down on his trolley, and you know, what's a 7-iron now is about 120, 115, 120 yards, and you know, he'll have 100 yards and he'll go out to 7-iron. I'm like, no, that's an 8-iron. But when you're not allowed to say anything, you see him pick up the 7 and you think he's going to fire this through the back of the green, and he plays some sort of shot, and you know, he sticks it perfect yardage. You know, and if it was me, I'd have made him take that 8-iron. He could have been short and in the water or whatever. It's the way the kids are sort of creative and just working it out themselves. But we've had similar things where Riley's been, you know, he's just walked up, took the club that's the yardage and not taken into account the wind, and he's, you know, the wind's behind him, and he's fired it straight through the back of the green, just because that one little bit of, you know, getting a bit tired or not quite sparking and not quite going through the process. So it's you know, they can learn from both different dynamics, can't they?
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's also quite tricky with kids as they're growing up, because you know, there'll be times when they just hit shots that go like, wow, where did that come from? You know, they'll suddenly hit a 7-iron, you know, in his case, 130 yards, it will happen. And he'd be like, whoa, well, that wasn't expected. And then, of course, lost ball through the back of the green. You're like, oh, no, that's going to happen. Inevitable. That, you know, you'll start to develop a little bit more swing speed. You'll nail a couple, and then, you know, this is how your yardages go up. But in terms of yardages and stuff like that, it's always looking at what your carry distance is. Try and get it as accurate as possible. And then you give yourself the what is the minimum yardage I need to carry this particular obstacle, and therefore choose the appropriate club. And sometimes you'll get a little unlucky with the first bounce and stuff, but always carry yardages is what you need to kind of refer to, and it shouldn't differ by that much from round to round. But you know, if you start to see things kind of changing over a period of time, then just make a change and address it, and just adjust your yardages. I think as kids are growing up, you know, every 2 to 3 months, you know, start changing your yardages or testing your yardages just to see how far it's going.
We need to do yours, don't we?
Yeah.
Just before lockdown, Riley he's got the pink prodigy set. So he had the shaft upgrade. He grew 4 inches since April last year, and around Christmas time he was, you know, massively reaching for the ball. And so I think how much longer are your shafts?
4.
No, that's how tall you were.
Oh, 2.
2.5 inches, I think, and 3 inches in the wood. So, and we haven't got well, obviously it doesn't matter because we're not on the courses. So we've got to try and get a bit of an idea of how much that's changed the ball flight and how far it's flying. So that'll be interesting when we can finally get back on the course.
Yeah, and I wouldn't always use technology. You know, I much prefer to kind of do this, get it set up on a driving range as such, if you have the opportunity to do that, or practice ground. Practice grounds are better than driving ranges because you can actually walk out to the practice ground and set down some targets or some distance measuring obstacles. You know, I like a couple of alignment sticks, so just go and shove those down. If you're hitting a 7-iron, you know, let's say you're going to stick one alignment stick at 95, you'll stick the next one at 105, and then you'll just see what percentage of balls land either short, between, or long. And then you figure out where the majority of them are, and that's kind of what your yardage is. And it's, you know, you'll gather data from, you know, using a measuring device, or you could use you know, flight scope or TrackMan if you've got a TrackMan or whatever, or just, you know, physically walking out the yardages yourself. But everybody has their own way of doing it. I just like to do it a little bit more by hand. Right. It's also quite cool, actually, Andy, if you get yourself a baseball mitt, you know, go and stand out there and have him hit balls at you, and you try and catch them. It's great fun.
You like that one, yeah?
Yeah. It's great fun.
I'm not catching any drivers.
Well, I was going to say, it's great fun until they use driver and they catch one thin, then it comes at you at ankle height. And then you're kind of jumping around like a maniac, not knowing where to jump, and that's when it hits you in the ankle. Yeah.
I was hitting some balls into the net this morning, and I shanked one and I nearly hit him. I was trying something new and just caught it straight out of the hosel, and Ronnie was like, "Dad, you nearly hit me."
Oh dear, oh dear.
You got anything I don't know how long we've been going. So 35 minutes. I don't know if there's anything that you particularly want to ask us or.
Well, I was keen to know what Riley felt about the future.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be a golfer. Yeah.
Doing what? What sort of golfer? A coach or a player?
A player. Yeah.
So obviously golf is your favourite sport, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I also play other sports. So.
Yeah, what's your next favourite sport?
Running. Oh, yeah, running.
Running. And what's most fun about running?
That, oh, you can like push yourself.
He's actually he's quite good at running. He won the district cross country competition, and so I thought I'll go out for a run with him. My background's physical education in the Royal Air Force, so you know I fancy myself across most fitness disciplines, and thought, you know what, he's a bit older now, and we did a 5K a few days ago, and you know averaging like 7 minute 45 miles, which you know, I was quite surprised that you know that he was sort of running at that level. So it's another thing that we've sort of got into doing together. But that's what our plan about 3 o'clock this afternoon. We'll go for a run together. Watch football as well.
Yeah, I play football. I played for my school.
Nice. Yeah, it's important to embrace the other sports and actually to understand what you enjoy about the other sports. I love so many different sports. I love running when I'm not lame, and you know, it's just it requires a different mindset and a different skill set, and it's nice to accomplish certain achievements regardless of whatever sport it is that you play. And I think that's really important to keep that up. And certainly the thing that's apparent to me is how important physical fitness is for the health of your golf game. And if you're playing tournament golf, it's really, really important. Healthy body, healthy mind. It's an age-old saying, but it's absolutely 100% true, because by the time you get to the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th hole, you know, if your fitness levels have dropped off, then you can guarantee that your brain focus has dropped off as well. So to be competitive right to the end, you've got to be fit.
So with the sport thing, it was, I said before, I played a number of county sports. Just before I joined the Royal Air Force, I was with the Leicester Tigers Rugby Academy. I picked up an injury, and that's pretty much why I joined the service, and then played rugby for the military. But early on with Riley, I was very like Riley was with a football academy or a football team, and you know, my sort of mental approach, and this is where I've done things wrong, was that, you know, he was doing football on a Saturday and didn't have time to do the golf, and you know, we weren't doing as much together. And Riley was starting to win a few tournaments. He'd done a British Junior Golf Tour and performed pretty well. It's like he said, you know, golf is your favourite sport? Yeah. So I was like, oh, we need to focus on that. So I definitely, he does the other sports, but in my head and the practice and everything else, it was like, you know, it's all got to be orientated around the golf. And the more I've spoken to people in the last year, it's that, no, actually, you know, these other sports, whether it's football, you know, certainly throwing events for Riley, you know, just wanging a ball and learning to transfer the weight.
Absolutely.
Just because it's not golf specific in terms of, you know, it's got a club in the hand. Those motor skills and everything that the kids are doing, it's still practice towards the golf, yeah. But it's doing something. And I think the big one, it's guarding against burning out. Where, you know, I spoke to peers from me and my golf about this on the weekend, and it was, you know, burnout's a massive thing where all these kids who are just doing golf day after day, a lot of them, you don't see them make it in the end. So they make teams. They may be a good standard of golfer, but when it actually comes down to it further on in life, they're not on the scene anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just a variety, it's a mental variety as well. You know, the mundaneness of golf day in, day out, it's just not healthy for your brain, let alone the physical problems that you can have associated with it. Of course, look, there are always exceptions to the rule, and the other problem is that we often pick these exceptions as the rule. You know, you've got these freaks of nature that peaked when they were in their late teens, and we feel that that's the model that we all have to follow, when absolutely not. You know, I think you've got obviously Jordan Spieth, you've got Sergio, you've got Tiger, Rory. You know, there's 4 golfers off the top of my head very quickly that were all effectively child prodigies in their teenage years, and that is not the model for us to follow. And there are arguments out there that suggest that in the right environment, single sport specialization can work, but that is absolutely for the minority. And you have to have a very special set of circumstances for that specialization to actually work for you. If that's going to be the way that you do things. So, you know, 95% I think would just need to play multi-sports, let their brains develop, let them mature properly, let their bodies mature and go through the different growth spurts the right way, and you know, come out the other side and then really start to focus on what you feel is the direction you want to go in.
That sound good?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about with me and my golf.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Riley, the tournament you play tomorrow or the tournament you play next week does not define the golfer that you're going to be, right? The next time you go out and shoot 110, right, you might not feel great about yourself, but my goodness me, you'll learn so much from it. And I've always tried to get my two to make sure that even when they're playing badly, to finish the round of golf. And because there's always value in it. There's always value in seeing how you fight back and seeing how, despite playing yourself out of contention effectively, there's value in fighting and actually figuring out kind of what's gone wrong or whatever. So, you know, it's just enjoying that whole process and not being dependent on your results at an early age.
That's good, and I think that's something for me. You know, I am competitive, and you know, I've seen Riley go out and shoot 5 over gross off the yellows at our club at 9 years old, and then the week after go and shoot like in the 60s, and you know. I remember when that happened and thinking from, you know, the week before, you know, it had probably been close to me, gross going through. He's just one of those days where he was making every putt, getting up and down, and just playing really well.
Yeah.
And then in your head, you're like, you know, this is really good. And then next thing, the swing's just not quite there, and we've all been there where the timing's slightly off. And you know, I think mentally as well, sometimes you know when you're going to do good and sometimes when you're bad.
Yeah, but normally it's like
that's the attitude. But, you know, even if they're just a little bit tired. But I remember thinking after that 16, this is again where I probably got it wrong. And this is great, me being able to talk to you guys. It's like, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, you know, what's going on here? And then starting over-evaluating and everything else. And after it, Riley's playing tag with the kids around the clubhouse, and he doesn't care. But
exactly,
you know, it was still sort of in my mind going, you know, what's happened so wrong to go from that to where we are now. And then the next time he goes out, he's, you know, Riley's got a handicap, and he's sort of regularly plays in the mid-40s off the yellows at the club. But if it can go either way. I think I was putting way too much emphasis on the score, and you know, whether it's actual shot that he's playing.
How does that compare? When's the last time you went to watch a professional sports team? Who was it? Was it rugby, football?
football.
When I watched, we went to probably England, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We went to Wembley to watch England, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And which teams do you actually follow? Do you have local club teams that you follow?
Go on.
Aston Villa.
Okay. So here's the question then. How do you feel, I think more for you, Andy, right? How do you feel coming out of Villa Park and you've lost compared to how you feel when you've been at a tournament with Riley and he's not played so well?
That's a good question.
Because I know when I watch, I'm an Arsenal fan, and yes, we beat Aston Villa this season 3-2 when we only had 10 men. Just throw that out there. But you know, we've had our low points, we've had our high points as a club, and I feel like my heart's been ripped out when we lose, and it's painful. You know, you feel like you lose the faith, and it's like, you know, and actually, I feel exactly the same way when either of my two play badly, and you know, I like that. I like that is a common trend for me, because it shows that there's an element of consistency, and it's just not the fact that the boys have played bad golf that makes me feel that way. It's whatever sport I like watching, and whether it's rugby, whether it's F1, whatever. You know, I get wholly invested in the sport that I'm watching, and when it's not the result that I like, then it hurts. But you know, you do, and you ultimately learn to deal with it, because you know how Riley reacts often is so much different to how you feel like he's going to react. And you know, when you look at them having fun afterwards, interacting with their mates, they've forgotten what they did, and they're just living, aren't they?
And I think this is where, like, the parents coach thing that you guys have been doing, and you know, even these conversations, even if one person just takes that nugget, a bit of information. You know, I've been there where Riley's got around going, and he's maybe missed a small putt that you'd expect him to make, and instantly he sort of looks, and I don't know how it was with you, but they sort of look at you to say, just some sort of reaction. I don't know if that's ever happened to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I'm very aware now that how my reaction is at that point can have a massive impact on the rest of the rounds, because I've watched Riley where I've got it right as a parent. You know, Riley's had a double bogey or a triple bogey or worse on a hole that he would expect to do okay. And as he's walking off, he's looking at me for some sort of assurance. And if your body language is slightly wrong or something, that's it.
This is very bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to see you doing that. You know,
don't see you do that, do you?
You know, they don't want to see you turning the other way and walking in a different direction. You know, just I genuinely try to smile now and to enjoy. I thoroughly enjoy being out there watching. I thoroughly enjoy it, and there are times when it's difficult to do that, but to show that level of enjoyment, you know, you basically shoulders back, chin up, and it's kind of positive how you're walking and stuff. You know, I will often start marching off down the fairway because I'll probably four caddy more than I'll go to the tee to watch and stuff. But yeah, just you're trying to show that you're not flustered by what's happened, and that it is just part of the process. And you know what, they'll bounce back if you let them bounce back. And you know, sometimes they can get terribly disheartened by just one little sight of your bad body language. And body language is very powerful. We talk about that in the education, but yeah, it can be a challenge certainly, but you just got to rise above it.
You know, all on my hands up where, you know, I've done the head shake and things like that. Maybe when I'm not as aware, but you know, certainly for Riley moving forward, I think it's got to be. If you are aware of that, then that's great, and if you can give the body. I've done a bit of NLP, so all body language, whether it's in your profession or sport or parenting, they all have it has its place, and yeah, I think knowing how to react in those instances is quite powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more you go into it, the more you understand it, then the better you are able to react, because you start to understand really as a parent then what effect you can have on your child playing. Again, you know, competition's only a problem when winning's the outcome, isn't it? And who's to say that them three putting on a green is going to affect the outcome? You just don't know that at the time. But you know, you're not necessarily going to win the tournament at that point, but you can certainly lose so much more if the reaction is not right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good.
I've got some books here for you.
Oh, go
on. Which I thought would be kind of appropriate just for the audience. So I've chosen three that I really like, and I got this one last week and whizzed through it really quickly. So it's The Gifted Junior.
Okay.
By Stuart Morgan. It's more of a story that illustrates certain views and perspectives and behaviours. So it's an easy read. That's pretty cool. I've got another little story. Actually, this is quite interesting. And by no means is this related to you, Andy, but it's called Dream On. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
And it's one hacker's challenge to break par in a year. And it's just a really interesting story about what this guy, John Richardson, is the author, what he goes through to try and break par. So that's quite a good one. And then this one, I quite like this one. It's called Lowest Score Wins. It probably looks backwards on my screen, so apologies for that. But
I'm writing them down.
I don't know if you've come across this before, but there's some, I've not read it from cover to cover. I kind of pick little bits in here, go to certain chapters and read, and I reference it quite often. But it's got some very useful perspectives in here, certainly for you off three. And as you might want to do some stuff with Riley, there's some really good stuff in here. So I think there's three little books there that might be useful to people.
Nice one, appreciate that.
Cool.
It's been good talk. We've pretty much done an hour there, so you know, you enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, I like that Riley. You know, he sort of sits there and gets to listen, and But I hope, you know, as we're talking about these things, you know, if I get something wrong on the golf course, he can talk to me and say, you know, you said to Gav that you weren't going to do that.
You've got to, Riley, you've got to hold Dad to account now. He's got to live by your standards, and you are the boss. You are absolutely in charge, my friend, okay? And I'll witness that when we get together. So we're going to, me and Josh are going to jump in the car. We're going to come up and see you, and we're going to go play some golf, okay?
Yeah.
A good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's going to win?
Me.
Well, I think we'll have to do this with old men versus young men. Okay, so you can play with Josh, Riley, and I'll play with your dad.
Josh is proud as well.
Is it? Oh, that's good.
What are you playing off these days? Do you still count yourself as a scratch golfer?
It depends on the day, but you know what, I'm playing golf right now. Well, not right now, but when I have been playing, certainly the last 6 months, when I've had a change in attitude towards it. I'm playing for the love of playing great shots. So every shot I just play as a golf shot. And I love just trying to overcome the challenge of each objective that I set myself. So I don't really keep a scorecard. I had a couple of good rounds last year. But you know, just thoroughly love hitting golf shots. I love it. And I get to play some pretty cool places. So yeah, it's definitely a privilege to play golf. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm you know, I am hooked on the game now, and it's a big part of our life. Obviously, this journey it is a big thing for us, and we love telling it. And it's, you know, the channel's giving us some great opportunities. Speaking to yourself, some of the brands I saw, Colour Path Golf that popped up. You know, we've been doing a few things with John Kemp.
Yeah, that's great stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. You know, we were filming a review that we're just doing as a bit of fun, but even things like that, where, you know, Riley gets to talk about shot shaping and how to play it, and just doing silly things like that through the channel. Riley's learning as well by doing that. So, but the opportunities are becoming, you know, fantastic, and you know, we look forward to certainly playing you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take my 3 shots aside, though, only because it's an age thing. So given that I'm considerably older than everybody else, then I'm going to take my 3 shots aside. Do it.
Well, if I'm with you, you can have as many as you like.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, Gav. You know, hopefully we do this again in the next few weeks. It's always good to have a chat. So
yeah, absolutely. We've got some. Got to get my head down. I've got some work to do. We've got our new parent education courses coming out on the 1st of May, which is really cool. It's very much more in depth than what we've recently put out. So if you were to go through it, Andy, it'd probably take between 15 and 20 hours. And it just talks about it goes into various topics, something about 13 different topics quite deeply, gets you really thinking and trying to understand and then implement various perspectives, you know, as the parent. And one of those is absolutely developing the relationship with the coach, because the 3 of you ultimately have to work really close together. And, you know, the other side to that coin is the education we've got for coaches, to make sure that they reach out to the parents and bring the parents in on the journey of how they're coaching their children. And that's the first step, and that's massive. So we've put a massive amount of work into this, and I'm very hopeful that it will be really well received throughout the golf coaching community and for parents of kids that are playing the game. So May the 1st is the launch date. So yeah, I'm going to have my head buried in my laptop, just finishing that off now, and yeah, resurface then.
Nice one. Well, good luck, and hopefully the next few weeks go by well. Perfect time to do it whilst you're at home anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, fellas, thanks very much.
Cheers, Gav.
Yeah. Take care. Get back to school, Riley. Get back to school.
Yeah. Lessons now. Thanks, mate.
Right.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.